Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views, and analysis that you need on Monday, the 10th of November. And is there a bit of a wobble down Tynecastle Way?
The home game, we came in here with a lot of expectation to try and win it, but we weren't good enough to win the game of the day. We'll take the point. We had a wee bit of an off day, I think, and players are allowed that.
Dundee United holding Hearts to a draw at home. Celtic and Rangers benefit as they both record comfortable wins.
Maeda! Dyson Maeda makes it 3 for Celtic. That is that. And they close the gap on Hearts at the top.
The gap between first and second now down to 7 points. And a resurgent Hibs coast past St Mirren to stay in third place.
Shiwa's first involvement sees him scoring, and Hibs have got all 3 points in Paisley. There's no way back now for St Mirren.
We'll fill you in on all the weekend action.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
With us for this Monday podcast, Billy Dodds and Michael Stewart. We've just finished recording Sports Scene. Michael's showing signs of fatigue after a long weekend. Billy, you're not showing any signs of fatigue, despite, sitting next to Michael for the entirety of Sports Scene.
I think we're putting one on that, sleep.
Michael, did Hearts draw with Dundee United at Tynecastle underline just why so few pundits are willing to put their necks on the line for a Hearts title win?
Well, I think there's quite a few started to jump on the bandwagon, was there not?
Name them.
Well, I'm pretty sure I heard a plethora of them on the radio previously saying that it could happen. But, I mean, look, it's an almighty task. It'd be very, very difficult. I've sort of gone on record and said that I think second place is a realistic target for Hearts, and one that I think they're probably favourites for at this moment in time. Dundee United were very good. I thought they were very competitive with an attacking threat. Thinking back to Dundee United at Easter Road, similarly, it ended up being a 3-3 draw, but they were really dangerous. Front three of Sapsford, Fata and Dolcek at Easter Road, and likewise there the day, I thought Fata in particular and Sapsford were really effective, and they caused Hearts problems. Right side of Hearts has been makeshift and not poor, because I think McEntee and Milne, that run of games that they were, I think 6 in a row they played down that side together, were good, but it's not a long-term solution. And I think today sort of highlighted that, trying to get Kabori into the team because he did really well last week against Dundee, and they effectively played like a front four, and I thought Dundee United capitalised on the gaps, and particularly Fata against McEntee was good from Dundee United.
Billy, how much do Hearts need to strengthen in January, do you feel, to have a credible attempt to win the title?
I think they might add 1 or 2. I think they've got to shift a few as well, because they're top heavy in their squad. I think you've got to realise for Hearts to sustain a run though is going to be really tough. They have a good squad. I don't know if the squad is good enough to sustain it over the season. I'm not one of those jumping on the bandwagon when it comes to saying that Hearts are going to challenge for the title. I just think it's a tough ask. I think you've got to realise that teams now against them, because the league leaders are going to lift their game. When you play the league leaders, you want to beat them. You could see that with Dundee United over the weekend as well. So I think they'll cruise third. They have a chance of finishing second. Do I think they'll win the league? I have to still say no. But you can't take away from them. They're unbeaten all season. I think they've only dropped us at 4 points. So they have had a brilliant start. It's whether they can keep it going or not.
Overall, Michael, it does feel like the most competitive Premiership we've had. I can really remember. You look at Dundee United themselves. I mean, they're such a sturdy side. They created so many opportunities, and were it not for those close calls, they had the ball in the back of the net.
They did. There was a number of close calls, and I think the frustration for Jim Goodwin is just a level of inconsistency. But I mean, I'm sure there's a number of teams could point to that as well. But Dundee United on their day are a very, very tough nut to crack. I think they'll take points off a lot of the the top teams throughout the season. For the top of the table, when you talk about competitiveness, I think it's quite clear. Obviously, you're looking at the table and it's Hearts sitting first, Celtic second, and Hibs are third. And Rangers are sort of closing in now. But Hibs could easily be sitting in second place. They've dropped so many points that could easily have been picked up. So I look at Hibs and I think they're a very good team. That if they click and hit a run of form, they could get right up. Well, they're already on the cusp. I know they've obviously played a game extra, but the two teams in Edinburgh are on course for a very good season, and obviously the challenge is to Rangers and Celtic to make sure that they maintain the pressure to try to first win the title and then try and finish second.
And Rangers, Billy, out of the title race. I seem to feel like I heard a lot of people thinking there's no chance Rangers can win the title now after their start under Russell Martin, but they're 12 points behind Hearts with a game in hand, 3 wins in the Premiership out of 3 for Danny Rowe. Is there enough potential in that Rangers squad right now for them to mount a credible title bid?
I think in the building they'll be saying to themselves, we're still in this, but they've got to still fix a whole lot of problems. They've got to get a run of consistency where they're winning games. I said Hearts are unbeaten. I said 4, I think it's 6 points have dropped, but they're unbeaten all season, Hearts. So Rangers have got to make sure that they put a consistent run of games together. In the building, as I say, they'll be saying we still have a chance. Publicly, I think they'll be playing it all down, and I think it's the right thing to do with all the problems they've had so far in the season.
It was so comfortable against Dundee, really, in the end, Michael. Is it credible from your point of view that Rangers could be potential champions this season?
I don't think Rangers will win the title, no, but you're forgetting about whether they win the title or not. You're needing to look at more a case of look at the sort of debacle and the shambles that is unfolded there to what's happening now under Danny Rule, and there is no question there's an improvement. So you're looking and saying, are they moving in the right direction? Don't think there's any doubt about that. Are they going to be able to win the title this season? No, I don't think so. But look, when have they won the title? They've only won it once since they came into the top.
Well, the fans always think that they should be in the running.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's the expectation. But the reality is that it's not a frequent occurrence. But from the debacle of the start of the season to where they are now, there is progress being made. Danny Rule, to me, is, and I think the sort of sense is that the fans are buying into it. He needs to be given time, because that squad that's been put together under Kevin Thelwell's watch is not nearly good enough. So I think that's actually credit to Danny Rule as well, in that he's not idealistic in terms of this is the way I play and this is the only way I play. He's been adaptable in the way that he's set up. He's trying to gain victories to build momentum and confidence, which is what's happening domestically. But he needs to be given time to get the right type of players that he wants in. And this leads into the bigger debate in terms of, Kevin Thelwell, director of football role per se, rather than just specifically Kevin Thelwell. And the money, how much are they going to spend? How much have they wasted? Are they going to be able to move guys on? But at the here and the now, I don't think they'll win the title, but there is improvement being made, there's no doubt.
They've actually done pretty well to even get in and about it from where they were. Because they looked as if, there's a time where they could have gone second bottom of the league.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. So to get themselves up the table, into third, in and about, and I know people say you're still, Celtic are 7 behind Hearts with a game in hand, Rangers are 12 behind Hearts with a game in hand, but it could possibly get it to 9.
Fourth. Goal difference.
Level on
joint third then. Good pick out though, Mikey.
It's been a long weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm sure arithmetic's neither of our strong points, but anyway, we're doing our best. But,
is that neither as in what?
all of us.
Oh, right, okay.
Including you.
It was quite
I know you won't accept that.
It's quite nice to point it out, yes. I'll be looking out for your mistakes in a wee while.
Never makes any, no.
Does he not? No.
Of course not. No.
Okay.
Do you expect it to be a busy transfer window for Rangers in January, Billy?
They've got to be careful where they go, because they have spent a lot, brought in a lot of players. Do they go wholesale again? I think if they can keep the consistent run up, put a few results together, you can maybe tweak, try and get a couple out, try and get a couple in. honestly, the January window is such a hard window. I wouldn't be going wholesale. I think I'd be just tweaking when it comes to that window.
What's your thoughts on that, Michael, from a Rangers point of view in January? They've got to back Danny Rose, surely.
Yeah, they have, but Dodgy makes a fair point in terms of need to be careful in January, because you can't continually make wholesale changes every transfer window. But I suppose the bigger issue then is, what is the ambitions of the owners for this season? If they're in sort of the hunt, or they're on the cusp of being able to potentially challenge, or even, challenge for second, because getting second is obviously into the Champions League qualifiers, then, it's a tough one to turn around and say, well, we're not making wholesale changes in January. So it's going to be a very interesting time. But I mean, look, the whole thing about Rangers, it's the wider debate about the structure. You cannot ignore Kevin Thelwell's position and the importance of what he has done in the summer, what he's continuing to look to do now, and how that implicates and impacts on what's going to happen in the future transfer windows. Because I think the big question all this is, do the owners trust him to go and make the signings in January and next summer and moving forward? Because I would suggest, I don't think there's many others out with the club that do.
I think if you go wholesale again, you're admitting your mistakes.
Yes.
So I think Kevin Thelwell will be wanting to change a few things about, but show a trust in these players that he's brought in to try and get the best out of them, to try and say to Andrew Kavanagh that, look, I was correct. I've brought them in. They didn't hit the ground running. I can't make all these changes. I'll tweak it because I really believe in them. I think that's the way they'll go.
Yeah, Andrew Kavanagh, the Rangers chairman. Let's talk about Celtic, back to winning ways after the disappointment against Midtjylland, where they were well beaten, really. Big plus today, probably from a Celtic point of view, Michael, was Kieran Tierney getting that goal, and you could see the emotion all over his face. How hopeful are you that we'll see the real Kieran Tierney that we all know back playing the way that he can play?
Well, I think everybody's hopeful, of course. You want to see a player of that talent and ability to, come back to the fore. It's not going to be easy though, because we were talking about this just earlier, that the psychological scars that Kieran Tierney has sort of amassed over the last number of years is it doesn't shift or leave them quickly. I think that the one hope you would have is that going back to Celtic, where there's an element of sort of feeling belonging, comfort, can hopefully help him to get over that type of thing. But and Dodgy will tell you as well, the older you get, it's amazing how it can affect your drive slightly, especially when you've had moments like this where he'll be feeling a little bit uncertain about his ability to be able to physically do what he needs to do.
You play within, don't you?
Yeah, it can take the edge off. When you're younger, it's like there's almost a carefree attitude towards, like, well, I've got a knock, doesn't matter, I'll just batter through. Because he's had so many, you hope it doesn't have too much of a lingering effect or impact on him. But I think it's impossible to say, like with any real certainty, whether we will be able to see, a Kieran Tierney that we once saw playing for Celtic or not. But even if he's able to get back to, close to those levels, it's the guy's, he's a world-class player. He is. Yeah. But at the moment, it is definitely a work in progress for him to try and get back to those levels.
It's almost like they're trying to nurse him through this early part. Obviously, not always starting matches, Billy, and
there's no doubt there. There's no doubt they're trying to condition him as they go along. And then, as Michael's alluding to, where he doesn't want to push himself too much till he gets himself conditioned mentally for him to go, I feel great, I want to get through it now, I can play 2-3 games in the trot. I don't think he's quite there yet, but if you do get it right and Celtic can get him tip top condition wise, fitness wise, and he can get himself so positive in a train of thought Kieran Tierney's a star. He's proven it, and he's got a few years left in him. He's only, what, 27, 28?
Yeah, exactly. But these things take time, because it's literally just the longer the time passes without him picking up an injury, the more then he'll start to believe, I'm all right, I'm okay, I'm able to do this. But you can't speed that up, because it's not a case of this isn't just purely a fitness thing, because fitness-wise, he would be conditioned to be able to play 90 minutes now. So that it's the psychological scars that he's having to get over, and only with a period of time will that start to shift. You can't speed that up. That's just it may well be that it takes a season of him playing, almost 90 minutes most games, almost playing, 3 games a week, might play 2, might not play. It's only going to be after a good period of time where he's played the vast majority of it that he'll then potentially feel like, right, I've done that, I'm okay here.
It's conditioning himself physically and mentally to play the number of games in the trot. But as I said today, that was a big moment for him. That will boost his confidence to say, yeah, I can push on from there.
Yeah. Celtic, big winners in the end against Kilmarnock. 5 straight defeats for Kilmarnock. How worried should Kilmarnock fans be right now, Billy?
They'll be worried, absolutely, when you lose 5 games in the bounce. But it's the drop-off that I would mention, because I watched them sitting in the BBC studios on the radio, and the games coming in a few weeks back, and you're talking less than a month, Johners, where they are demolishing St Mirren and Dundee United, getting it perfect at both ends of the pitch, playing good football, taking chances, being rock solid at the back. They have gone from the biggest high to the biggest low just now, and that's confidence again. And we all say it, confidence in football, it's a huge thing. They need their confidence back, and they need it quickly.
Let's talk about Aberdeen against Motherwell as well. Finished 1-1, Michael. How close do you feel Aberdeen are to clicking this season? Because they had the horrible game against AEK Athens in and amongst it all.
Yep.
It's not actually been that bad results-wise apart from that, but you kind of get the sense that you are waiting for it to click.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a fair assessment of it. Do you know, I'm unsure, to be honest, because clearly something had to change from the earlier part of the season when they were miles off it, shipping too many poor goals, and there was a fair weight of criticism on the manager in terms of being almost religiously sort of buying into that it was just 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. He changes the system, but when I look at Aberdeen, it doesn't feel like it's a system that really is suited to all the squad players that they've got. So very much in the same vein as I'm talking about, the right hand side for Hearts feels a little bit makeshift. That whole system to me for Aberdeen feels a little bit makeshift, almost like it's just buying a bit of time. But certainly, as you said there, the results are not terrible domestically, but the performances likewise, you're not looking at it and going, all right, yeah, they're really beginning to find their rhythm, they're hitting their straps. It's okay. And I don't know whether okay is going to lead into better, or whether it drifts back to not really happening. It just feels a little bit, I'm unsure, to be honest.
It does feel like there's a big onus on Jesper Karlsson right now. Obviously he gets that big goal against Motherwell, and he's obviously a quality player, Billy, but it's just, as Michael says, trying to find the framework to fit that all in.
Well, we touched on Lazetic as well.
Yeah.
Strikers have got to make sure they're scoring goals. They've had, Michael's talking okay, and he's right to point out, because they've beaten Kelly when they didn't really play well, but then they go and get 2 draws, good one in Larnaca, and they would have been delighted getting that win against Motherwell, because Motherwell are doing well, but they draw that one. For me, they need to, for themselves, probably get 2 or 3 wins in the trot, and I think you might see them take off. But you get that feeling when it's a win, a couple of draws, then maybe a defeat, that they could slip back the way again. But I would say next game or the next couple of games, they've got to try and win a few to make sure that they know where they're going, they know what direction they're going in, and the confidence is keep them up and pretty high. In
terms of a team with absolute cohesion, so many people have given so many plaudits to Motherwell this season. Michael, what is the final part of that equation? Do you feel that, well, we saw them obviously getting beat 4-1 by St Mirren last weekend, so there's obviously work to be done. It was a draw this weekend with Aberdeen. Play great stuff. What is the extra ingredient they need?
Just both boxes being a little bit more clinical in their defending and their attacking play. I think you heard Jens Bertolascu today just talking about they didn't look like they were capable of opening up Aberdeen enough with the creation of real gilt-edged opportunities, and I think you could say that quite frequently. It's I would say up until the edge of the box, they're as good as anybody. They really are in terms of controlling the ball, moving it, opening the opposition. But once they're getting to that edge of the box, it feels like it's just a little bit off. Mm-hmm. It's like they're either trying to find the perfect goal that's not quite coming off, or they've not got the ability to simply just score from distance. And then obviously defensively, it seems like at times they concede key goals at key moments in the game. But just effectively the two boxes, if they're able to sort of sharpen up a little bit there, for me, Motherwell are on the cusp of making the top. I mean, obviously it's so truncated and tight.
Yeah.
But if Motherwell are able to do that, and it's not a huge ask by the way, because they have got good players there. If they're able to add that, then they would be challenging for the European spots for me.
The creation for me at times is sensational, but the ratio of taking chances is pretty poor. So if they can get that closer, marry it up a little bit, I think they'll take off in the league. I really do.
Quick final question: who will finish higher in the table, Aberdeen or Motherwell?
Right now, I would say just because the way they play, the style, they'll not change. They could start taking chances. They should have had more points on the board, but they've, especially I go back to when they were up 3-0 at Tynecastle and they throw 2 points away. I think if they can start taking chances, Motherwell will probably finish higher than Aberdeen this season.
Yeah, I would agree.
Billy, Michael, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Scottish Football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
It's petty, it's ill-informed.
Are President Trump's cuts having an adverse effect on research?
It's pandemonium.
What number's that in the periodic table?
PD, number 47. I don't know.
I've done the shooting clays before. The longer you do it, the sorter obviously it gets.
When Craig said there he'd been shooting the clays, I imagined him out a back line. Somebody's washing,
William Shatner, his secretary, contacted me to say, when Bill has a question now and again, can he contact you? And then one time he called me up and he wanted to know, David, what is a photon? I'm thinking, this is incredible. Captain Kirk wants to know what a photon is,
I once met a guy who referred to a globe as a ball map. A ball map.
A ball map.
Look at the ball map. What we normally do is spin the ball map and we see where we go on holiday.
The Off the Ball podcast, available every Monday on BBC Sounds.